Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Optimizing Mother podcast. I am so excited to be here today with a dear friend that we really miss in Crown Heights. This is Rivky Katz. Rivky is a mommy, a phenomenal Mora, and I got to know Rivky in her years living in Crown Heights because she completely rejuvenated the Levi Yitzchak Library and facilitated so many classes with Rabbi Manis Friedman that the community really benefited from, the high school girls, which obviously had its ripple effects on families. And Rivky even put them up onto our website, 11213.org, which I believe they're still living there, right, Rivky? So Rivky has, really been passionate about teaching these transformational ideas of Chassidus. And I really wanted to tap into that expertise as a mommy and a Mora and her really unique feminine understanding of Chassidus to really inspire all of us with our mothering. So welcome, Rivky. So excited to have you here.
Thank you, Sarah. It's so good to be here with you. And I've been enjoying your podcast. So it's an honor to be on it as well.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'd love to just dive right in because, I know you're like a straight shooter and you represent something. And, there's a lot of trainings and classes that we could take on early childhood education and that mothers want to know and that teachers want to know. But from your unique perspective, what do you think? How is childhood education? How is early childhood chinuch different through the lens of Chassidus that you don't necessarily have when you don't study these concepts in Chassidus? What's unique? What's special?
Okay. So it's a big difference. And the big difference is the perspective from the starting point. Without Chassidus, it's I'm me. And now let me see what Yiddishkeit can teach me. Let me see what all the different curriculums, what I can teach children based on all the different philosophies, and also from Torah, from the starting point is ourselves, where we are, where the child is. When you learn Chassidus, the starting point is from before creation, the Eibishter himself. We weren't here, the world wasn't here, nothing was here, just the Eibishter, and yet the Eibishter chose to create us. The Eibishter chose to create the world. The Eibishter chose to put me right here in my position as the mother, as a teacher with this child today, right here, right now. What's it doing for him? So when I come into school and I'm ready to teach, is it what can I gain from the Eibishter? What can I gain from Torah to give this child a good life, to make a successful classroom, to have good technique? Or is it what can we here do for God, for the Eibishter? Not the other way around. Not what can I take from the Eibishter to help me in my classroom, but why is the Eibishter putting me here in this classroom here today? Why did he create us? And what can we do for him today, right here, right now?
Oh, wow. I love how you flipped it. So we're not turning Chassidus into another methodology that there's all these methodologies on the shelf. Here's another one that has the real secret. We're flipping the script. We're saying, no. It's not here to benefit you. You are here to benefit Hashem.
Exactly.
So it's interesting because really kids are the least people on planet Earth that you'd expect to be able to teach this concept to. I mean, they're literally little undeveloped children and they're just thinking about themselves all day. So you're coming at them with this perspective. What does that look like in the chinuch?
So it starts right from Bereshis. When I teach them at the beginning of the year, Parshas Bereshis, and we say Hashem created the heavens and the earth. Hashem created the trees and the mountains. Why? Why? Not just thank you, Hashem. We're so lucky you created us. You created a beautiful world. But why did you create this world? And only Chassidus can help us understand that, because Chassidus gives us Hashem's perspective, really to understand what is the Eibishter gaining by creating a world. We know what we gain from the world. We know that we gain existence. We gain all the benefits of the world. But why would the Eibishter choose? He was alone. He had no problems. Why choose to create us? And I asked this to the children. Did Hashem need the sun? Did he need the moon? Did he need trees? Does he need air to breathe? Does he need food to eat? No, he doesn't need any of these things, but yet he creates them. So we need all these things, but we weren't here to need them. We were only created on the sixth day. So what benefit did Hashem get And when I break it down with the children, they actually help me come up with the answer that Chassidus gives, that it's not that Hashem needed anything. When you're perfect, you don't need anything. Nothing was missing from God. God is perfect. But yet it was just him. God was alone. And I asked them, think about a mommy and a tati that have a huge house and they have so much food and so many toys and they have everything that could possibly any person could want. Beautiful clothing and beautiful furniture. And yet they have no kindlach. How do they feel? What are they missing? They're not missing anything. And the children say they're not happy. But why are they not happy if they have everything they could want? They have all the money in the world. They're not happy because they're missing someone. They're missing their kindlach. They want to be with their children. And when you're perfect, that's when you can focus on a real need, which is the need for a someone. So they get to understand that the Eibishter is perfect, but perfect is not enough because perfect means I'm good. But what about you? You should be here. Somebody else should be here with me. So they understand that what the Eibishter created the world for is to be with us. That he was not satisfied, even though he was perfect and had no problems and needed nothing. He needed someone. So we say, do you know why you're here? Do you know why Hashem created you? And Hashem created me because he wants to be with us.
But it's not just be. He wants us to do Torah mitzvahs. He wants us to do something. He does want something from us.
So I explained to the children that when you keep Shabbos, what are you doing? Are you giving Shabbos to Hashem? Hashem already had Shabbos. Hashem keeps Shabbos. He doesn't need you to give him Shabbos. He has Shabbos. But the thing is that Hashem keeps Shabbos alone. And Hashem doesn't want to be alone. When you keep Shabbos, and when you're careful not to do muksa, and when you ben shlich, and when you make kiddush, and when you dress Shabbos stick, and when you go to shul on Shabbos, you are celebrating Shabbos, which means you're with the Eibishter. He's not keeping Shabbos alone. So when you do a mitzvah, you give yourself to Hashem, not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is already him, but it's him alone. Every single mitzvah that Hashem gives us is an invitation to join him where he is in his will, but now he's not alone with the mitzvah. He's with us. And for that, Hashem created a whole world.
Wow.
So then I asked them, so then why did he make the sun and the moon and the trees and the fruits and the vegetables? And they realized in order to be with us, to be with a yid who's a human being, Hashem created our bodies, that we need food, that we need sleep, that we need a home, that we need air to breathe. So he created us with these needs, and then he provides us with everything we need. So yes, the trees and the food and the sun is not for Hashem, it's for our need. But who's the one that needs us to be alive? So when I eat the food that he makes and when I breathe the air that he makes, is that serving me, or is that really serving Hashem? Is it giving me what I need when I eat, or is it giving Hashem what he needs? He's the one that needs me to be alive and healthy. So
it kind of like debunks almost like the self-care movement, because we're saying even the food and the air and everything you need is not really for herself. It's not separate from your avodah of serving Hashem. It's all part of Hashem care. It's like Hashem care, really.
And that's what we show in the classroom, that it isn't a subject in school, that you learn science and you learn math and you learn chumash and parsha and mitzvahs. It's all one. We're in the Eibishter's world. And we always constantly ask this question: why would he make this beautiful world? What benefit is it to him? We know the benefit to us, but what is it to him? So when we're learning, and we've been learning now this week about digestion and about how the body works, this is his incredible world. So wow, thank you, Hashem. We taught the bracha of Asher Yatzar this week. We learned thank you for making my body work, but it's not helping me that my body works, because I had no need for a body. I didn't have any problems that needed fixing before he created me with these needs. It's all serving the Eibishter's need. Everything about my life is serving the Eibishter's need.
Right. So to clarify what I was saying before, I wasn't saying to neglect the body Hashem gave us. It's more a matter of emphasis and focus. Everything I do is with an emphasis, whether it's with eating or anything, it's the emphasis is Hashem. So really your whole goal as a Mora is to emphasize to these children that it's all about Hashem, whatever they're doing.
Right. And when we get them at 4 or 5 years old, they're coming from the young baby years of fully being focused on their need. I need. And everyone's there to serve their need. At this age, at 5 years old, we're starting to shift. We're shifting into, and what's needed of you. And this starts with Parshas Bereshis. What's needed of you? Yes, you need, and everybody's helping you take care. Make sure you have food. Make sure you have clothing. Make sure you have toys. But what's needed of you? Why did Hashem put us here to begin with? What are we accomplishing for Hashem? And the goal of chinuch is to raise a child's pleasure so that eventually the feeling that I'm needed by the Eibishter should be the greatest pleasure. To be able to do something for my Creator, be able to do what's needed of me is my pleasure. Because at the beginning, my pleasure is only when my needs are met. That feels good. How do you go from feeling only the pleasure of me getting my needs to the pleasure of being needed? So the Frierdiker Rebbe explains the steps of pleasure, how you raise a child's pleasure. That first the child enjoys food, taste, touch, things that they can hold, they can taste, they can touch, very tangible. Those are his pleasures. Then you move a child up the ladder to the pleasure of music. That's less tangible. They can hear it, they can't touch it, they can't taste it, and yet it's a pleasure. And they can really learn to enjoy the pleasure of something they can hear. Then they move up the ladder to the pleasure of good midas. When you tell them stories of heroes that were kind and were loyal and courageous, and these are stories that give the child pleasure to hear. Wow, he did something so amazing, so kind, so loyal, so brave, and they enjoy that. They get pleasure from hearing those stories of good midas. Then you move the child up the ladder and they get to a point where they want to be able to have those midas. Then you move the child up the ladder of pleasure to where they enjoy using their mind, the intellectual pleasure. They learn something new. It's a pleasure. They figure something out. It's a pleasure. It's so much more pleasurable than a lollipop. They look back at when they were little and their greatest pleasure was that lollipop. And it doesn't compare to the pleasure of using your mind, figuring out a good riddle. It's a real pleasure, but it's still all my pleasure. It's still all the pleasure of me. The highest level that you want to bring your child to is the pleasure of giving the pleasure of elikus, which means the Eibishter is experiencing pleasure, and that's my pleasure. Yismach Yisrael ba'esav, the pasuk of Yismach says that a yid's greatest pleasure is when he's giving the Eibishter pleasure. If the Eibishter is happy, then I'm happy. But begashmius, it has to be real pleasure. Begashmius, that you feel it in your body. The pleasure of elikus.
I'm listening to you and it's very inspiring, and there's plenty of other mothers on the podcast. And like the first thought that's coming to me is like, this sounds like an inspirational share, but like you mentioned before, it's not separate from life. It's part of life, right? So I guess you have these dual roles, right? You're a mommy and a Mora. I would love for you to wear your Mora hat for now and talk to us, mommy, so to speak. What does that actually look like? Like how does this perspective inform the way your classroom actually runs, or different things, or kids having to take turns, or circle time, or all the stuff that comes up? Like, there's the content that we want to give over to our kids. And then there's, I guess, the how. Like, how does the content inform the how? And how does this beautiful idea actually translate into the lives of little humans?
So it has a very big effect on the approach. So if you're teaching Aleph Beis, you're teaching Kriya, is the pressure on the child or is the pressure on the Eibishter? is the pressure that you need to be able to read. You're graduating kindergarten. You're going into kindergarten. You need to know your alphabets. You need to practice. You need to know your kriya because you need to be good at it. It's a lot of pressure on the child. But when you realize that, what do you mean the child needs to know how to read? Why does he need to know it? And if he doesn't? So why do we put so much focus on making sure the children know their alphabets, know their nekudas, know how to read Hebrew or know how to read English? Why? It's all for the Eibishter. The Eibishter is the one that needs us to be able to open his Siddur and daven, needs us to be able to open his Chumash and learn and hear his thoughts and his feelings and his likes and his dislikes, needs us to be able to read and write in English and communicate with the world and teach Torah to the world. You need to be able to do that with English, but not because you need. He needs. It's part of our mission, part of his goal. And so we try to be available one day at a time. And it really takes away pressure when it's not, I need to be the top. I need to be successful. It's the big goal needs to happen. So I didn't do it today. I'll do it tomorrow. I didn't get it the next day. You try again the next day. You're available to the big mission, but it's not your goal. And whenever, and especially as a teacher, if you feel stressed as a teacher, if you feel stressed as a mother, it's because the whole goal is becoming what you need to accomplish. I know that when I'm stressed, it's because I've lost focus and it's, I need to get this done rather than the Eibishter's waiting for this to happen. When the Eibishter's waiting, I do it with joy and with calmness. When I need it to happen, there's pressure and there's frustration and there's stress.
And there's also control because it's for me. I need a control.
And control. I need it now. But even with a child, like if this is about a child living a life of Avodas Hashem, there's no pressure. He needs to know how to read right now. It's not the pressure of, oh, I'm a bad teacher and I didn't do a good job and it's reflecting bad on me that I didn't do a good enough job teaching. Or it's reflecting bad on the child that he's not a smart child and the mother's embarrassed that her child's behind. There is no other goal. I was just teaching Aseres Adibris to the children. So we learned about don't have two Hashems. I asked them, what does it mean to have two Hashems? How do you have two Hashems, two creators? What does that mean? And they know all about from Parsha when people were serving idols and how silly that sounds to daven to a statue or to an animal or to the sun. But what's wrong with worshiping the sun? We benefit from the sun. What's wrong with that? When does it become avodah zarah? If you worship the sun because you say the sun wants to give me its warmth and its light and it's choosing to do so, then there's two desires in the world. There's the Eibishter's desire and there's the sun's desire. The sun is doing the Eibishter's job. It has no volition of its own, has no goal of its own. So idol worship means don't have two goals. Don't have two reasons for which you were created. We were only created to serve the Eibishter's goal. And what could be the biggest form of idol worship? When we wake up in the morning and we say, what do I need to accomplish today? What's my goal for today? So now there's two goals today. There's what the Eibishter wants for me today, and there's what I want to get done today. When you realize that everything in your day is not really your goal. What, you need to go shopping? You need to go exercise? You need to go to work? Who needs this from you? Much more than you need it. Much more than you need it. It's all part of the same one goal of being here for the Eibishter. He wants to be with you. He needs you to be healthy. He needs you to be calm. He needs you to be safe. So everything you're doing for your well-being is serving the Eibishter much more than serving you. So this is where...
I'm blown away, Rivky. I'm listening to you. Like you're taking the deepest maimarim that we've learned, right? Even what you mentioned before about avodah zarah, like, you know, I'm hearing like my seminary rabbis, and you're bringing it down to little children. I'm blown away by this.
And they really get it. They get it. There's in every parsha, every yantiv, we have so much opportunity to teach the messages, to teach the deep messages of the Rebbe. We can bring up so many examples from parsha of how we bring out the message. And one day we were standing in line, walking in from the playground, and one of the kids asked me, what does perfect mean? So I said, perfect means that you have everything you need and everything you want. And I said to them, so is being perfect enough? Is it good enough to be perfect? Then is a person happy when they're perfect? And literally one of the children, he was 4 years old, he said, no, because you still need someone. If you have everything, it's not enough. You need someone in your life. So perfection is not the goal. Oneness is the goal.
Oneness. I love that. Oneness is the goal. Becoming one with Hashem's desire for us. But I love this and it's amazing. I'm just wondering if you could walk us through like a scenario. Like there's this beautiful idea and concept of oneness. And then like, what do you do if a child in your class is natural nefesh bahamis starts up? They start fighting over a toy. Like, they start whining. Like, how do you bridge this idea with the actual scenario of a child in your class?
Great question. So first of all, if it's about when I remember the big goal that the Eibishter needs the oneness with this child, and the Eibishter is the one that created his nefesh bahamis. The Eibishter is the one that created his yetzer hara. So first of all, the blame is not on the child. I'm not angry at the child for his self-centeredness and for his yetzer hara. It's who made him this way. So I have to ask myself a question before I can respond to the child. I have to remind myself, 1 minute, I'm seeing yetzer hara, I'm seeing selfishness. Why did the Eibishter give it to him? What is supposed to happen? This is a yerida l'tzarech aliyah. It's like a lowness, but in order to go above and beyond where we would never be able to get to without this selfishness. So the first step is to not be upset at the child, not to blame the child. Know that this too comes from the Eibishter for the one big goal. Everything is serving the one big goal.
Wait, I need to process that for a second. I'm thinking like as a mother, that's amazing. So my kid, I see a manifestation of yetzer hara, probably gets me nervous and upset or angry. My first thing that I have to retrain my brain is this too is from Hashem for a higher goal. I know I'm just reiterating what you're saying, but I'm translating it into my language because I'm listening to what you're saying and I'm like, whoa.
And not just a higher goal, but the one goal. There is only one goal of creation. So everything is working towards that and always have to remember, what is the goal? Is there some big important goal at the end that's going to happen? It's such a simple goal. The Eibishter wants to be with us. He wants to be one with us. So how are you one? If you don't have free choice, if you don't have yetzer hara, if you don't have nefesh bahamis with all these natural physical needs, then the Eibishter is one with you without your choice. And then that doesn't feel like true oneness. Because our neshamas were one with him before they were put into a body. But he chose to separate our neshamas, put them into a physical body, give us all of our own physical, emotional needs and selfishness, which is our yetzer hara. Because from that place where we have our own agenda and our own needs that can distract us from the relationship with him, now we have to make a choice, me or him. I want to be an I or I want to be a we with the Eibishter, become an us. I have to jump over my selfishness. I have to surrender my selfishness and say, it's not for me, all of my needs. My needs were just to distract me, to focus on me, so that I now have the opportunity to choose the relationship or myself. And when I actually choose the relationship and I choose the Eibishter, now he truly has me.
That's the aliyah.
That's the aliyah. But wow. But here's the thing. If it was for my need to connect to Hashem, then I have my goal and you have your goal. And we have two separate goals that we're trying to achieve. You need the relationship with Hashem and I need the relationship with Hashem. It's two separate goals. But if I'm serving Hashem, not for my need for him, but for the Eibishter's need for me, and you're serving Hashem for the Eibishter's need for you, then we're both serving the same goal. It's the Eibishter's need for his Yidden.
I'm almost thinking that in a certain way, there's a certain understanding that we sometimes have that's flawed because it doesn't feel like a real choice, which means if we think we're serving Hashem because that's the best life for us, which is what we're told and what we sometimes say, that, you're only going to be your happiest self is if you do Torah mitzvahs because that's what your neshama wants. Like if our commitment to this is because that's the best life for ourselves, it's not really a choice. It's like we have no choice. We're doing it because that's the best thing for us.
Right. Wow, that's a good point.
You're like taking us to a mature enough level. It's like an evolution. It's like we're letting go of choosing something because this is the best thing for us. We're doing it because of Hashem. That's really deep and really high.
And the only way to make that choice, to do it for the Eibishter's benefit, is if we understand how the Eibishter could need you. Like, we understand how we need the Eibishter, but how could the Eibishter need me? If we don't truly understand the Eibishter's vulnerability to us, then everything we do is really self-serving. Then ultimately, it's not for him, it's really for me. Unless he really, truly is depending on me, then it's for him. But if he's not, if there's even a little bit where like, no, he's perfect, he doesn't need you, you need him, then we have to find our own motivation. And when it's from your own motivation, then first of all, how do you ever do Avodas Hashem? And second of all, how is there ever Aftos? Everybody has their own individual goal to connect to the Creator, to connect to God. And there's never unity. There can't be world unity. There can't be unity even within one community because everybody has their own goal. But once we all realize that the Eibishter needs us, not because he's lacking a thing, but because he's lacking a someone, and who can really focus on the need for someone. Only someone who has no physical needs can truly focus on the real need, which is the real need for a someone, which is the Eibishter's need. Once I know he really needs, then we can all do it for his benefit. And then there's unity in the whole world. All religions can unite. We're all trying our best to serve the Creator for his benefit. Communities can unite. Families can unite. Classrooms can unite. Marriages can unite. Because we all realize there is no other goal other than the one purpose of creation.
You're making my brain work hard. I love you. You're making my brain work hard. It's in knots right now. Because I feel like the rhetoric that we hear so often is not this. I mean, I wrote a book called Who Needs You based on this thing for kids, but right. I'm still processing and understanding it in a new way now, because I definitely think as we grow older and we start asking questions about Hashem, or at least for me, my experience has been that it somehow clicked that this is the best life for a Yid. Tamaru Kitay Vavaya, this is what my neshama really wants. And I'm understanding now that there is an element of self-serving in that. Even if it sounds like I'm doing it for my neshama, it's so that I could reap the benefits. This really is completely selfless. And it's also not really logical. It's like, it's something different.
It's not practical. Our relationship with the Eibishter is not a practical relationship.
It's not transactional.
It's not transactional. It's not I'll do for you so you can do for me. It's personal. And that's why we must realize that the Eibishter created us not for a transaction, not so we can do something for him. It's a personal need. From his essence, he desires to be with us.
I'm going to have to re-listen to this recording a few times. I have another question. Okay. I feel like I keep going back and forth with this, blown away by the idea and then like pulled back down to earth conceptually. I was asking you before about, let's say like a kid who's being selfish and you said like, oh, that too is part of the plan. But again, I want to know, let's say there's a kid has sensory issues. Today, there's a lot of kids that have sensory issues, right? Or is picky with food. Like, how do you take this big idea and how does it inform practically? How do you deal with a child in your classroom that presents with these challenges?
Okay. So again, when we're focused and it's not my goal, it's not my need for my classroom to run properly. It's not my need for the child to behave. It's not my need to prove myself as a good teacher. It's right here in this moment is exactly where the Eibishter is putting me. What does he need me to do for him with his precious child right here, right now? If I can have that calmness and clarity, I will come up with a solution. Or if I can't come up with a solution right then, I know I'll have to research what the proper techniques are of how to help this child. But I'm doing it from a place of calmness and no pressure on me to achieve and to be successful. It's really what is needed. There's a goal that the Eibishter has of me right here, right now. What does he want me to help this child with? When you take yourself out of the picture, the solution is always a moment away, a click away, a phone call away. It's all the answers are in the world. We can find solutions, but the question is where it's coming from in us.
Right. Do I have that desperate need to fix this kid so that they don't have this impossible, limitation?
Right. Then even if I have a good technique, it's not going to help the child in the long run. So there's helping the short-term technique and there's the long-term technique. Mm-hmm. There's what can I do right this moment to just get the child to be quiet or to help the child's body stay calm? And what am I doing and that's important in a classroom. You do need that. You need those quick solutions. But then you also need to be focused on the long-term goal. The long-term goal is that this child, the Eibishter created, and if the Eibishter has every single yid in the world having a relationship with him, but not this child, the Eibishter is not complete. This is his precious yid. And what am I doing to help move this child along one step at a time? All I can do is move the child one step. This is 1 year of his education. Slowly, each year, you move the child more and more up the ladder. So sometimes I might know, with this child, it's just to help him start to learn enjoying music. Maybe that's the goal right now with this child, because we can't talk about anything more intangible, any higher goals right now. He's so focused on the pleasure of taste. How am I moving him up one? But that's like the longer vision. And then there's the short term. Right now, do I have a prize I can give him, or right now, which words work? But we're not satisfied with the short term goals because it's not my goal. Short term, I need him to behave in my class. And if you're a really good teacher or a really good manager, your class can be perfect a whole year, but you haven't changed anything within the child. In your classroom, they behave perfectly. So that's not chinuch. That's classroom management. And you might be able to give lots of skills also, but are you moving the child along in his relationship with Hashem? So, if you're asking me for practical, I don't need Chassidus to give me the answers to practical, but it does help with the practical because when I'm in a calm space and when the pressure is off of me needing to be successful, and rather it's helping the Eibishter get his goal, then I'm in a calm state and I can find short-term solutions. And I can also focus on, well, what's the long-term solution? What's the chinuch solution?
It's so interesting because I remember learning in Country Sumayan about the different levels of pleasure, but I never thought of using it as a chinuch perspective. Like I thought of it like me as an adult. Usually when we think of goals for kids, we think in terms of like them davening better or benching better. Like I never thought of it as like, let me help the kid appreciate the pleasure of something less tangible. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so interesting to me how you're like using it as like a real thing.
It's a roadmap. Yeah, it's a roadmap for the child. But also, like you're saying, you want the child to daven and bench. How is this child supposed to enjoy davening and benching? They might enjoy the points they're getting. They might enjoy the prizes they're getting. But physical pleasure from davening and benching, how is it even possible? Unless you have conversations about the Eibishter and understand how important their benching is to the Eibishter. Unless they gain an appreciation for Elikus and for satisfying the Eibishter, it's a chore. It's a bother. And they'll do it if they're getting a prize. So it's really necessary to have these conversations from a very young age. But even though we're having the conversations, we're not expecting them to be at that level yet. We're planting the seeds, and we're watching, like when their face lights up, when they're in a good mood, and you ask them, let's make a bracha. The Eibishter is waiting, and they're happy to do it. It's at that moment. It doesn't mean that a second later they're not going to be completely self-centered. But if you can even see moments of them enjoying doing for the Eibishter, or you see their mind understanding to whatever degree that they're doing it for the Eibishter. So now you're planting seeds, you're on the path, you're on the way. But without those conversations, and it's just about you being a good boy, or you being a mitzvah boy, or you gaining the medals and the awards, then the true pleasure is not even an option for them. Only the selfish pleasure is an option.
I'm listening to all these conversations you're having, and I'm just curious, do you think a mother is able to do with her kids at home what a teacher is able to do in school? In other words, do you think there's a difference in terms of approach? I know you keep going to the idea and I'm back to practical, but let's say kids are fighting. Do you think how a mother would deal with it, with all these conversations, would look the same as a teacher?
Absolutely. For a mother, it is critical for a mother to be able to put herself and operate from that right perspective, because the mother's job is infinite and impossible. It's what a mother does is incredible. And without the right perspective, then it's about being a good mother. You have so many expectations of needing to be a good mother. And it's impossible to be a good mother. It literally is impossible, because the needs of our children are absolutely endless. No matter how much we're doing, there is so much more we could be and need to be doing for them. So we must step away from the goal of being a good mother. And we need to understand that our pleasure should be in being their mother and recognizing what it means to be a mother. And what that has to do with the big picture, with the big goal, that actually being a mother is a microcosm of the whole purpose of creation. Because the Eibishter's goal is not for any need for something from the world. It's for someone. He yearns and cannot be without us. And a mother is the microcosm of that. Hashem literally gave his yearning, that he yearns for someone. He gave it to women. He made women feel that godly yearning. When Hashem told Chava, you will yearn for your husband. That's what Hashem said. The woman is like has this godly desire for a someone, even though she's a human being with so many physical needs of her own. She naturally feels this godly desire that just me is not enough. So the yearning for marriage begins in the woman. She yearns for her husband, not for any practical purposes, not because she needs something from her husband, but because she yearns for him. It's a godly desire. The mother yearns for her child. And that's what brings the child into the world, is because the woman, it begins in the woman's godly yearning. I can't be without my child. And we all know that it's not a practical desire.
Right. And that's why it's a mitzvah for a man. A woman's not mitzvah on the mitzvah, right? Because she has the inherent desire.
Because we have it naturally. And we begin the desire. And we're the role models, and we also start the dance. And then the husband responds. He responds in marriage. He responds as a father. And this desire is not logical, and we can't explain it. And we yearn for our child before we know anything about our child. And yet we cannot be without our child.
Sometimes yearning almost feels like intense. It's like we have this like intense yearning. That's the way it was meant to be.
It is so powerful. It's what makes the world go round, because every person in this world is necessary. Well, ultimately because God yearned them here, but physically, every person that's here is here because a woman yearned them into the world. We're here because a woman, your mother wanted you. And every marriage happens only because the woman yearns. And so everyone responds to the woman's yearning.
I guess this perspective also helps with like mommy guilt. I was listening to what you were saying about you're never going to be a good mother. You're not supposed to be a good mother, and therefore you don't have anything to feel guilty. You're supposed to be, finish my sentence. You're not supposed to be a good enough mother. You're supposed to be a mother who.
You're supposed to enjoy being their mother. And what does it mean to be a mother? It means to yearn for your child. The fact, the only, every single responsibility you have, you can hire someone to help you with. The only thing you cannot give over to someone else is the yearning for your child. What makes them necessary in the world is that you desire them. So as a mother, our most important job, number one, is to protect our yearning, because what our children and our husband need most from us is to not put our guards up so that we won't feel this yearning.
It's very vulnerable to feel a yearning.
It's very vulnerable. And inviting your husband into your life, inviting your children into your life is impossible. You're giving up your space, you're giving up your time, you're giving up everything you have to have them here. And yet there's no choice. It's who you are. But if it's too difficult, then we'll put our guards up. We won't want to feel our yearning so that things should be simpler and easier for us. So when a mother takes time to help herself and to relax and to hire help and to go relax, it's critical, not just for her, but for her family, because her family depends on her being able to be in touch with her desire for them. If we're overwhelmed, guards are going to go up. So number one, protect our yearning. And number two, recognize that everything we're doing for our children is not because it's our job, it's our responsibility, it's a thing we have to do. It's a thing on our to-do list. When you're in touch with your yearning, then what you notice is that everything you do is for someone, not for something. I'm doing this for my child. I'm not making dinner. I'm keeping my child healthy. I'm keeping my child with me by making sure he has food to eat. And then that could motivate you to do even the mundane things, because suddenly you're not doing something mundane. It's like you're not cleaning, you're not cooking, you're nourishing, you're nourishing someone. You're not doing something. And this someone is not just any someone. It's your deepest desire is to have this someone. So it's remembering the focus and the goal is always someone, not something. Knowing that my child is my desire, I yearn for him. And who gave me this desire? When I yearn for my child, I'm being like God. He made me in his image. I'm being like him. I'm yearning for a someone just like God yearns for a someone. So it's so holy. And on top of that, it's not only that I desire my child. This is the Eibishter's desire in his essence, is that I should be the mother of this child, that I should yearn for this child, provide for this child. And now this child can have a relationship, a family relationship and a relationship with him. That the family unit is not just another goal separate from serving Hashem. There's our family and then there's our Avodas Hashem. No, the part of the Eibishter's essence is that there should be Yiddish families that are one and that love each other and desire each other. And these families that are here should be one with the Eibishter. So it's all part of one goal.
I think my last question, when I think of a preschool teacher, I think of her like sitting on the floor and playing games. That's her job. She's with the kids all day. I remember hearing Rabbi Friedman saying that it's not the adult's job, like the mother's job, to sit on the floor and play with her kids or whatever. a mother is kind of supposed to like adult and bring her kids into like the adult world. So it just seems like, practically speaking, what a Mora is doing and what a mommy's doing is not the same. Any insight on that?
Yeah, what a mommy's doing is taking care of the child's main physical needs. She's busy, doing all the adult work. What's the adult work? It's keeping her yearning with her, keeping her child healthy and safe and secure and in this world. And everything the child needs then becomes her avodas Hashem. Her holy
time. Should she try to make time to sit on the floor and play and all that stuff like a Mora?
It becomes, when you're not doing it because you want to be a good mother, when you're doing it because it's what the child needs right now, then you know when it's necessary. Sometimes you hire someone, a babysitter, to come and entertain the child. Sometimes if there's going to be no food for the child to eat, then it's more important for you to go make food because the child's going to be hungry in a few minutes. But sometimes the opportunity is just perfect that you're able to sit down on the floor and spend time with the child. And the reason that's critical is because from the child's point of view, the child does not just need a bed to sleep in and clothing to wear and food to eat. Just like your need is not practical, the child's need is also not just practical. The child needs you. Your yearning for the child is the child's greatest need, that to be necessary to you. And when you enjoy spending time with the child and you're doing it for the child's benefit, then the child truly has you. If you're sitting down on the floor because you want to be a good mother, you're not enjoying it, but you want to be a good mother and you're checking off your to-do list. And one of the things is to spend 10 minutes on the floor playing, then the child doesn't have you because you're still focused on yourself, on being a good mother. The unity, the achdus only happens when we leave ourselves. When a mother says, I yearn for my child, she's saying, I don't want to be my own focus. Someone else should be here in my life. And now they are my focus. I'm here for their needs. And being there for someone else is my pleasure. I'm here for them. So it's absolutely important to find those few moments to connect to the child where it's not about everything they need, but it's about giving yourself. And when you're making food and you do it from your heart, that you're saying, I'm doing this for someone rather than for something, the food tastes different. It's not about health. It's about you. I'm doing it for you. You are my pleasure. When the child feels that they are your pleasure, that's the greatest security in the world.
Wow.
And a Mora, when the child leaves the safe, secure home where all their needs are met and they go to school, that's the beginning of their education, of finding out what's needed from them. Their mommy makes sure all their needs are met. Their Mora is helping them realize that they're needed in the world and how they can be a part and make a difference in the big world.
Wow.
And Hashem's big plan.
Wow. This is like amazing. It's like you have such a gift, because maybe this is all things I knew, but you have such a gift of articulating it in such a soft, feminine way. I love it. So, how would you wrap this up if you had to like tie it all together? Like what should all our takeaways be?
I think look for the opportunities to find a few moments of mommy heaven, of enjoying mommy heaven. And it doesn't happen all the time, but there are those moments where you feel there's no place else I'd rather be. There's nobody else I'd rather be with. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing right now. I am literally in heaven. This is, nothing can be better right now. And you have those moments when like, you're just in, whether it's when your child's sleeping, or whether it's Shabbos morning and everyone's relaxed and playing nicely for a few moments until something happens. But there are those moments where you realize, wow, I'm exactly where I want to be.
Wow.
Yes, it's overwhelming and it's stressful and it's challenging, but there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. And when you find those moments of pleasure, they really fuel the stressful times. Then you strengthen your foundation. The foundation of your home is your pleasure in your family. That's the foundation. Above that is everything that needs to happen and everything that needs to be done. But if it doesn't have a strong foundation, it can fall at any moment. The foundation is the mother's pleasure in receiving her husband and her children. And the same thing for a mower. When you're in that classroom, try to find a moment of feeling the absolute pleasure of like, I don't want to be anywhere else right now. I'm teaching the Eibishter's Yiddish and Neshamas. I'm teaching them Torah. I'm doing something that's affecting generations, that's bringing Mashiach. This is like big cosmic, what's happening right here, right now. I'm helping a child make a bracha. It really is cosmic. It won't always feel that way, but it is. And if you can find those moments to feel it and realize that it's true, this is critical to the Eibishter, what I'm doing right now, then you strengthen your foundation. And from there, everything is a pleasure.
Wow. Thank you, Rivky. That was incredible. The students of Cheder Chabad, Florida are so lucky to have you. Shout out to my friend Chaim Matasab and to the entire staff of that school. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. We are so lucky. Thank you everyone for listening to the Optimizing Mother podcast. Please share with your friends. Please subscribe and spread the wealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. This was a pleasure, and the Farbrengen always can continue.
Exactly.